Welcome, I am the Loud Little Ducky. Today, since we have gone over the internal investigation, we have statements now from Chief Donna McNamara from Stoughton Police Department in the Sandra Birchmore case. So we are going to look at a statement she wrote and a press conference she held. So let's jump right in. Statement of Chief Donna M. McNamara on June 24th, 2024. To the Stoughton community, as a part of our ongoing review of deeply troubling pattern of events regarding the life and death of Sandra Birchmore, we have been engaged with counsel as the family of Sandra is suing the town of Stoughton. Sandra's family has hired a pathologist who has issued a report as part of preparation for the civil lawsuit. We had received and reviewed the report and are aware that the Boston Globe and other news media may have received the report as well. My statement in response to the report is below. The Stoughton Police Department is committed to transparency in this matter, and we will continue to provide updates as they become available. As Chief of the Stoughton Police Department, I have directly participated in this lengthy and aggressive internal affairs investigation. In September of 2022, I released an executive summary, which revealed for the first time the horrific injustices, including grooming and SA, inflicted upon Sandra Birchmore at the hands of one rogue and corrupt former police officer and additional inappropriate sexual relationships by other former police officers. It has been my stated mission, guided by both my understanding of the policies and procedures of Stoughton Police Department and my own moral compass, that this process must be as transparent as possible and that we follow every lead and shine light on all aspects of this horrific chapter in our history, no matter what. Police Department and that's part of the same thing. So, we are going to skip that paragraph. I need to be clear that our police department has no jurisdiction over the investigation of Sandra's death, which occurred in a different community. However, I will reiterate that the Stoughton Police Department has assisted and continues to cooperate with other law enforcement agencies. Sandra received not so much as a sliver of justice during her life, and we will not cease in our efforts to ensure our duty to administer justice, and she is not forgotten in the aftermath of her death. As part of our ongoing work with other agencies, I have uncovered relevant investigatory information over the course of both the Stoughton Police Department's internal affairs investigation and in our mandatory preparation for the pending lawsuit filed by Sandra's family. We have and continue to turn over all information to the appropriate agency or agencies. However, as a police administrator and investigator with decades of experience, I would be remiss if I did not remark that I have reviewed the findings of the outside doctor retained by Sandra's family. I was profoundly disturbed and troubled by what I read. While I am not a trained medical examiner, and I am not qualified to draw any direct conclusions, the findings certainly warrant further examination at the highest level. As always, we will continue to assist with any effort to ensure that the truth and justice prevail. Every good and decent police officer should be aware of and angry about the injustices inflicted upon Sandra Birchmore. Sandra idolized police officers and what policing stood for in America, and she was victimized as a result. The only mantra of a good cop must be never again and never, ever on my watch. Thank you. That is the statement for Chief Donna McNamara. It's very good PR. I will say that. I hope she means it. I do not know. But I really hope she means it. And, all this didn't fully happen on her watch. a lot of this started before her time. But my issue is that there has been no arrests of these men for their conduct. But then, I don't know. It's a tricky thing because while there isn't a statute of limitations on stuff like that, like there used to be, they can't confront their accuser because she is deceased. And so a lot of times cases like that get dismissed. But Canton, not Stoughton, should have already arrested Matthew Farwell, who, by McNamara's words, stated that at the hands of one rogue and corrupt former police officer, that man needs to be in jail, in my opinion. All three of them, four of them, whatever, need to be in jail. But the one that possibly tried to set her up to look like an unaliving when it wasn't, he needs to be behind bars. But him and his wife, who knows about all this, are just living with their children and normal everyday life. And it's disgusting. And I don't know how his wife stands by him. It's gross. But now let's jump to the press conference. All right, here we have Chief McNamara in September of 2022, and she is going to be talking about the internal affairs investigation. This is from the Young Jerks channel. I will have their link, if you do not know them, in the description box below. And we are not sponsored, but I couldn't get rid of this part of the video when doing it, so I'm just going to make sure I cover my bases. Let's hear what she has to say.
McNamara of the Stoughton Police Department. In order to be fully transparent, I am here publicly to disclose the results of an internal affairs investigation ordered by me, which uncovered serious misconduct on the part of former Stoughton police officers. What I'm about to brief you on is something deeply troubling to me as a human being and as a police chief. On February 4th, 2021, 23-year-old Sandra Birchmore was found deceased in her apartment in Canton.
23, very young.
I'm not here today to talk about the subsequent investigation into Miss Birchmore's death. Her death was investigated by the Norfolk District Attorney's Office. What I am here to talk about today is her life and how she was failed by, manipulated by, and used by people of authority that she admired and trusted right up into her final days. Miss Birchmore was a vulnerable person who had one constant in her life since childhood: her unwavering admiration of police officers, of those serving the military, people in uniform, people with oaths and duties to protect and serve. The admiration led her to form relationships with men who were willing to take advantage of her. The media has previously reported about Miss Birchmore and her relationship with former Stoughton police officer Matthew Farwell. On February 5th, 2021, the day after Miss Birchmore's death, I ordered Deputy Chief Brian Holmes to lead a full and complete internal investigation to determine what, if any, misconduct was committed by members of the Stoughton Police Department. The death of Miss Birchmore and the subsequent inquiries into her life and death revealed a deeply disturbing pattern of behavior toward her. I'm here today because it is my McNamara, the Stoughton Police Department. In order to be fully transparent, I am here publicly to disclose the results of an internal affairs investigation ordered by me, which uncovered serious misconduct on the part of former Stoughton police officers. What I'm about to brief you on is something deeply troubling to me as a human being and as a police chief. On February 4th, 2021, 23-year-old Sandra Birchmore was found deceased in her apartment in Canton. I'm not here today to talk about the subsequent investigation into Ms. Birchmore's death. Her death was investigated by the Norfolk District Attorney's Office. What I am here to talk about today is her life and how she was failed by, manipulated by, and used by people of authority that she admired and trusted right up until her final days. Ms. Birchmore was a vulnerable person who had one constant in her life since childhood: her unwavering admiration of police officers, of those serving the military, people in uniform, people with oaths and duties to protect and serve. The admiration led her to form relationships with men who were willing to take advantage of her. The media has previously reported about Ms. Birchmore and her relationship with former Stoughton police officer
He was
Matthew
the
Fowler.
oldest one.
On February 5th, 2021, the day after Ms. Birchmore's death, I ordered Deputy Chief Brian Holmes to lead a full and complete internal investigation to determine what, if any, misconduct was committed by members of the Stoughton Police Department. The death of Ms. Birchmore and the subsequent inquiries into her life and death revealed a deeply disturbing pattern of behavior toward her. I'm here today because it is my duty, a duty that I take very seriously, to report to our community
17 and
on the findings
27.
of a nearly 19-month-long, complex, and resource-intensive investigation. This is my first and earliest opportunity to speak about this investigation, which has just finished and has been reviewed by counsel as recently as yesterday. The investigation, in which Deputy Chief employed the service of numerous outside private investigators and subject matter experts, has resulted in the following findings. 3 former members of the Stoughton Police Department, William Farwell, Matthew Farwell, and Robert Devine, were identified as the subjects of the Stoughton Police Department Internal Affairs case number 21-1-IA. The sustained finding involving Matthew Farwell were the following. Matthew Farwell, in violation of the Stoughton Police Department
Farwell
rules and
did that,
regulations,
not Devine.
demonstrated conduct unbecoming an officer, failed to demonstrate sound judgment, was untruthful, and failed in his attention and devotion to duty. The sustained finding involving William Farwell are the following. William Farwell, in violation of Stoughton Police Department rules and...
Now, when he was demoted from deputy chief, remember, yeah, it was for abuse of power because he, at that time, was also having relations with an underage child. They just nonchalantly just go right past that. I don't like that.
regulations, demonstrated conduct unbecoming an officer, failed to conform to laws, violated data entry policies, failed to demonstrate sound judgment, was untruthful, and failed in his attention and devotion to duty.
Did he end it?
The sustained finding
Or did he
of
end
Robert
her?
Devine were the following. Robert Devine, in violation of Stoughton Police Department rules and regulations, failed to demonstrate sound judgment, was untruthful, and failed in his attention and devotion to duty. The facts of this case, after an attentive and complete investigation, are as follows. In 2010, Ms. Birchmore, then age 13, entered the Stoughton Police Department Explorer Program.
School resource officers.
It was there, as a child, that she met Matthew Farwell, an instructor in that program. The evidence demonstrates that Matthew Farwell began an inappropriate relationship with her when she was 15 and he was 27. The investigation uncovered many hundreds of digital
He
messages
was around these
and explicit
minors for
exchanges
20 years.
between Matthew Farwell and Miss Birchmore over the course of several years. The investigation continued from there. Evidence discovered determined that at least 3 Stoughton police officers, who were all known to each other, including Matthew Farwell, his twin brother William Farwell, had inappropriate relations with Miss Birchmore. The investigation showed that William Farwell, in addition to having multiple inappropriate physical encounters with Miss Birchmore, exchanged explicit messages and photographs with Miss
I'm glad she
Birchmore
said that.
while he was on duty. The evidence suggests that William Farwell also, at the very least, attempted to introduce Miss Birchmore to other men. The evidence further showed that 2 others engaged in inappropriate.
We do not need another reason for people to hate police officers. Not all of them are bad, but man, Massachusetts is really taking a hit in this area on how many bad ones they have up there. And yeah, some of this could be considered human trafficking, as a commenter said on this.
Relations with this young woman. Robert Devine, a former deputy chief of the Stoughton Police Department,
They
who
get
had
their
been previously
retirement
demoted
benefits.
patrol officer for abusing his power, and an individual who is now a police officer in another jurisdiction. Our investigation
Abington.
discovered that Matthew Farwell exploited Miss Birchmore, a young woman who was 13 when she met him, until Matthew Farwell decided to end the relationship on February 1st, 2021. According to Farwell, he went to her apartment to call off the relationship.
I don't know
and
who the
engaged in what
military
Matthew
recruiter is.
Farwell
I'll
later
have to
called
find him out.
a pretty nasty argument.
Or if
Miss
it was
Birchmore
Devine.
was found dead days later. Our investigation revealed this misconduct goes back even further. Devine was part of an after-school program at Stoughton Middle School, where he and other officers were in charge of several students.
But why are there no further actions and criminal charges on these men? Is it because she is deceased and they cannot confront their accusers because one of them made it to where she couldn't ever do that? Huge question.
Without supervision from members of the school district. The investigation determined that Devine had inappropriate contact with a female student in that program. Robert Devine began overseeing the Stoughton Police Department Explorer program approximately 20 years ago. When he took over, he changed the program from a traditionally scouting program to a paramilitary-style program that taught aspects of policing to youth participants. Both William and Matthew Farwell were youth participants in the Explorer program under Devine. And the Farwell brothers would later take part in that same program as instructors years later, which would put them all on a course to meet Sandra Birchmore. All 3 men,
Good.
the
They
Farwell
do.
brothers and
I
Devine,
believe they have been,
violated their oaths of office
decertified.
and should never have the privilege of serving any community as a police officer. Through a sustained and deliberate combination of lies,
Which
deceit,
is sad for the
and treachery,
youth. It was a good
they violated the
program. It
policies
just had
and
bad
the core
people
values
in
of the
charge.
Stoughton Police Department. Not to mention human decency. All 3 men have resigned from the Stoughton Police Department. And the conclusion of our investigation has been shared with a police chief in another community, where a 4th man associated with this investigation is currently employed. Our investigation also uncovered inappropriate communication between Miss Birchmore and a military recruiter. And we are in the process of notifying the appropriate chain of command of our findings. In years prior, a story like this would have ended here, or perhaps even earlier. All 3 employees have resigned, and without criminal charges, no further actions would have been taken by a police department. Not today. For decades, police chiefs in Massachusetts have called upon the legislature to create a statewide certification program, and most critical in this moment, a decertification program. We finally have one. The creation of the Massachusetts Peace Officer Standards and Training Post-Commission makes this announcement possible today. The investigation recommends, and I am today announcing the following actions. I have notified the Post-Commission of the finding against all 3 former employees, Devine and the Farwell.
Now, remember, this did not happen under her watch. Granted, they were still officers while she was there, but that part, it wasn't a whole lot of nefarious because Sandra was an adult during her time as the chief. And, you know, that they shouldn't be doing things that they're doing And Canton has to take care of what happened to Birchmore, not Stoughton, because it didn't happen in Stoughton. It just happened to be one of their employees. But it was, some of it was off the clock. But a lot of these misbehaviors didn't happen under McNamara. I don't know who was the chief at that time. If you know, let me know in the comments. So I'm going to have a little bit more empathy for her than I would for the other person who had no idea this was happening with these children.
Well, brothers, the Stoughton Police Department recommends, without delay, their certification to serve as police officers be permanently revoked. I've recommended to post that all 3 individuals be immediately placed in the National Decertification Index, ensuring they never serve as police officers anywhere. The Stoughton Police Department submitted a copy of the investigative report.
We went over that long investigation.
Additionally, the Stoughton Police Department Explorer program, which has not operated for many years,
I think it was 2 parts for us because it was so long.
We take an oath to protect and serve our community and its people. You are held to a higher standard. These men violated their oaths, and they are unfit to serve as police officers. I stand before you today as a civil servant who is heartbroken and incensed by what has transpired, and who pledges to that this chapter in the Stoughton Police Department and the town of Stoughton is over. It must never repeat. The revolving door is closed. A person who wears a badge in this community will work to earn back the trust of our citizens.
The DA
we will be trained and retrained on the meaning and the importance of our oath. Anyone who violates that sacred responsibility will be held accountable.
Which I think Morrissey
I believe in
is
lawful,
the DA.
fair, and impartial policing. And I believe in police officers. I believe in the police officers and the people that work at the Stoughton Police Department today. The men and women of this agency are good, hardworking people, driven by their values more than just a set of rules. I can tell you that they share in my anger and outrage. Management and labor may not always agree on everything in the workplace, but when it comes to the things that matter most, our moral compasses could not be more aligned. This has been a long investigation.
Just as you are as a
involving
human,
nearly
should be
100,000
discussed. It
pages of
shouldn't
cell
matter
phone
if you're a woman
records,
or not.
text messages, more than a dozen interviews, several outside experts, and countless hours were spent by Deputy Chief Holmes, who oversaw this complex and draining work. He did an extraordinary job. Under very difficult circumstances,
Calling
pulling
us
on every
out,
thread
putting it out there,
until the investigation reached its natural conclusion.
not backing down, letting them get away with it.
Deputy Chief Holmes is to be commended for his work, and I can say, upon reviewing and accepting the results of his investigation, that the scope of this problem in our agency has been identified and pulled out by the roots. The
Keep
police
the
officers
public
who serve
informed.
this community are here for the right reasons.
But their
and wish to
DA
serve
doesn't
Stoughton
believe in that.
selflessly and with dignity. Please hold us to our word. Thank you for your time, attention, and understanding, and I will do my best to answer any questions.
Did you find any evidence of statutory rape, Chief?
Good.
Could this lead to criminal charges?
We have turned the investigative report over to the district attorney's office, and it's under their review.
So that is a possibility.
I can't answer for the district attorney. I'd refer that back to them.
The DA would be the one to determine if there was any sort of statutory rape.
Yes, the district, we referred everything to them. The internal affairs investigation that we conducted was that of internal affairs, and that entire report has been turned over to the district attorney's office.
Chief, how do you get to the deputy chief level? I'm sure there's a lot of vetting. Was there any accountability for the process? I'm just going to explore.
So the he was a deputy chief many years ago, and I was not the chief at that time. I refer that back to the previous administration.
Chief, you're clearly how you feel as a chief and as a woman about what has happened here.
I am outraged, and I'm trying to look at this as a human being, not just as a woman. And anyone, whether they are a woman or a man, is just as outraged when they read this. And that is regardless.
She's not going to say that on TV.
Previous investigations that have very badly happened.
We have to show up and do our job. Transparency will be part of what we do moving forward. Transparency breeds corrective behaviors, and that's what we will do. We will show up, we will be here, and we will work
I'm
very
sure
hard
most
to
of
earn the
them
trust
are good,
back from our community.
You mentioned at least 3 officers.
but there's a few bad eggs, and it makes it bad for everybody.
Moving on, certain time. I wonder how many other people would know about this.
So we have done a very complex and intensive investigation, and we have identified the 3 officers that we know, and the 4th from another community. But if there are other members that come forward and file a complaint, we will investigate that as exhaustively as we did this last investigation. First I became aware of it was when I was contacted by the Massachusetts State Police.
I'll write this. Read from her script, but that's okay.
There's inappropriate
Gotta write a
communications
statement.
between a recruiter, so that would be a 5th person. The officer where he works, they have been made aware, and we are in the process of notifying the chain of command in the military.
So that is what the police chief, who is currently the police chief, had to say about it, because all of it was uncovered during her time. A lot of it didn't happen during her time. And isn't that interesting? That none of them sat down, which they don't have to. They have the right to remain silent. But none of them wanted to sit down and try to explain themselves, because they can't. There's nothing that they can say to refute any of it. It's in black and white. I mean, I guess they could say, hey, you don't know, like somebody else could have had my phone, and da 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 da. All the BS in the world. But it's through multiple platforms. So maybe not. They can probably get ping data and stuff like that, but it's very sad. And the DA is one huge problem in this area. He is pretty corrupt from what I see, and in my opinion. I don't live in the area, but the things that he said and the things that he does, yeah, it's not good, and he needs to go. Maybe more things can be done once he's gone, and there's some, new eyes and stuff in there, somebody that is not corrupted, that is not going to be conspiring with a bunch of these people in a lot of these Boston area cases, like the ones in Stoughton, Canton, and Boston. Just Norfolk County needs a major update, makeover, whatever. But that is the press conference. That is where we are going to end this video, and in loud little ducky fashion, our quote of the day is, you may not be able to control someone's negative behavior, but you can control how long you participate in it. And if there are people out there that know of things that are going on that are wrong, then you need to say something. You need to let people know, because if it's hurting somebody or it's illegal and you know about it and you don't say anything, you're participating in what they're doing. You're part of it because you know about it and you're staying silent. Don't let somebody's negative actions make you a part of their behavior. Hear something, say something. See something, say something. That is going to be it for us today. Please like, subscribe, comment down below, share this video out, and we will be continuing on with this Sandra Birchmore case, and we have more coming in the Owens v. Eckerd case as well. I will see you next time.